Hey, good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. So it's got a neat little crowd here. Okay. Anyway, I want to continue the series on shame. And tonight we're going to be talking a lot about the second in the series on shame reduction. And I'm going to begin by doing tomorrow's reading from the language of letting go. Actually, this morning I posted this on Facebook. I well, I was a day early. I thought it was the 17th, but it was only the 16th. But it's really good. Think healing thoughts. When you feel anger or resentment, ask God to help you feel it. Learn from it and then release it. Ask God to bless those who you feel anger towards. Ask Him to bless yourself too. When you feel fear, ask the higher power to take it from you. When you feel misery, force gratitude. When you feel deprived, know that there will be enough. When you feel ashamed, reassure yourself that who you are is okay. You are good enough. When you doubt your timing, or your present position in life, assume yourself that all is well. You are right where you're supposed to be. Reassure yourself that others are too. When you ponder the future, tell yourself that it will be good. You look back at the past, relinquish regrets. When you notice problems, affirm there will be a timely solution and a gift from the problem. When you resist feelings, thoughts, and please practice acceptance. When you feel discomfort, know it will pass. When you identify a want or a need, tell yourself it will be met. When you worry about those who you love, ask God to protect and care for them. When you worry about yourself, ask Him to do the same. When you think about others, think love. When you think about yourself, think love. And watch your thoughts transform reality. Today, I will think healing thoughts in all the things that I do. I really love that reading. It kind of fits right into the recovery process and dealing with the aspect of shame. And we started the series off last week talking about the different faces of shame. And I mentioned something called the iceberg theory. And the iceberg theory works on the principle that so many of us not even knowing it. I'll use myself as an example in a couple of minutes. So many of us not even knowing it have kept so much stuff buried inside of us for such a long period of time. As they tell you in the program, we're sick as our secrets. And many of us have kept those secrets and kept them buried because, first of all, we might be afraid to deal with them. Secondly, we have a tendency sometimes to be so deep in denial, we can't even recognize them. And thirdly, so many times I'm almost afraid to move forward because I actually feel, and there's the big word, if I get in touch with my feelings, it's too damn scary. I don't know about you, but the first time I got in touch with my feelings, it scared the hell out of me. I didn't even know I had them. And I share that on a personal basis because I have to share kind of a bit of my story to kind of bring this out. You know, back in 1973, I told you before, I had a nervous breakdown. I was in a hospital. And with the grace of God in recovery, my alcoholism was identified. And with the grace of God, I haven't touched alcohol since then. But unlike any other addict, I just substituted and went to other addictions. The two for me were my eating disorder and, of course, my workaholism. And the thing I've learned over the years, I never understood this, because even though I was in a 12-step program back in 1973, from 73 to 1986, I never truly worked the program because I think I was too scared to really work it. And so I became what they referred to back then as a two-stepper. You know what a two-stepper is? Do the first step and then you jump right to the 12th. You don't need those 10 in between, right, Sue? Forget those 10. So the bottom line was I spent most of my time running around the countryside, fixing everybody, rescuing everybody, bringing everybody to treatment, running drug programs, running alcohol programs. Oh, I was a loose cannon. I was out there, man. And the crazy part about it is, it's even amazing when I wrote the story of my life. and look back on those days, I still can't believe I did half the things I did. But now I understand it because I really was running away from me, and it was a good cover. And so as a result, I probably did a lot of good for a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. Probably helped a lot of people. But the bottom line was, I truly was not dealing with me. My inside was frozen solid. It was only until I got into my eating disorder program, my first one, back in 1986, that I began my journey really truthfully in recovery. Great sponsor. I did the steps for the first time. My life began to change. And literally, I had to make a lot of major decisions, make a lot of major changes. With the help of a lot of people, I was able to turn a corner. But I'm going to be honest with you. It was scary. And every time we go through transition and we go through change, it's always scary. So when it comes to shame, we don't realize all these issues of shame we built inside of us, and they come out in many different ways. I'm going to tell you something about shame. Shame, as I said, had a lot of faces. And so if we don't deal with it, and if we don't process it, and if we don't get it out, then what's going to happen is it'll come out sideways. I'll share a little story with you. Years ago, when I was working with the Philadelphia Water Department as their EAP counselor, one of the places I spent some time with in Philadelphia was I went to the court a lot, and they had the court for domestic violence. And what I found really interesting is 60% of the people in domestic violence court were usually first-time offenders, and their profile was that they were fundamentally nice people, but probably all this stuff had built up inside of them for so long. It's only a matter of time till it got out. And it usually came out on the wrong person, on their spouse. It may have come out on their children. It may have come out at work. Because one thing you have to try to understand, when you bury anger, you bury frustration, you bury fear, all these things, they're going to come out. They may come out at the wrong time in the wrong place. And that's why it's so important to really work on what we're going to talk about today and get into today, this process called shame reduction. Because I've learned when I bury stuff and keep stuff inside of me, it's almost like this gigantic balloon inside of me. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger till it overtakes you. And somehow, some way, I have to deal with it. But here's the hard part about dealing with shame and dealing with issues of shame. It's almost like you have to take your time. You have to go slow. It's a process. And the process as well I want to hit tonight, because we really have to learn this process and begin to work it, because it means investing in myself. It means taking the time to go to the inside of me, to my feelings, taking time to begin this process. Problem is, most of us, if you're codependents or recovering addicts or anything else, we have a disease. That disease is, I want instant gratification right away. I don't want to wait. But we use the terminology, we have to learn to peel the onion. I love onions for a reason. You take the outer skin off, then a little bit more, and as you get close to the center, you notice tears start coming down your eyes. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Well, that is a beautiful analogy to what's going on inside of us as we begin to defrost the iceberg, to begin to go and look at our issues and get in touch with them. And as we do that, slowly but surely, these things begin to come up. They're called feelings. I work with a lot of people in recovery. One of the things they always say to me, what are you doing to me? I'm getting in touch with these things. I didn't know what they were. Remember, feelings are beautiful. Neither right nor wrong, they're just feelings. We have to learn how to let them come out and get in touch with them. And it's scary because most of us are not used to it. I know I wasn't. and begin to get in touch with your feelings, begin to realize you're allowed to have them. And all of a sudden, there's so much stuff that's been there for such a long period of time. And as you defrost it, you begin to realize it's part of who I am. But shame reduction teaches me something. If I do it slowly, I allow the process to take place. And slowly but surely, I'll bring that shame, I'll bring those issues down to a manageable level. So I can then embrace them, heal them, learn from them, and grow from them. Here's the key to everything in life. You've heard this so many times. It's called the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative. Everything that's healthy and good in life has balance. And everything negative in the course of our journey has a positive side to it. We have to be able to get it down to the level where finally we can begin to deal with it. And you know as well as I, you keep something inside, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It gets more intensified. Do you ever procrastinate dealing with something that you know you have to deal with? And then you try to find another reason not to deal with it. Then all of a sudden, it becomes like it's a gigantic thing and have to work on. Then you take it to bed with you. And you try to figure it out. You try to analyze it. You make yourself half crazy. And then finally, when you do deal with it, it's not that big at all. We do it to ourselves all the time because we're scared. We're scared to be able to open up. We're scared to be able to get in touch with things. And so we got to do it slowly and gradually. I have so much gratitude to my first sponsor in my eating disorder recovery program. Beautiful man, took me through the steps, began to get me to work on myself. But he had a little philosophy which I loved. He would say to me every day, he'd say, Vince, just do a little bit a day. He had those two fingers like that all the time. A little bit a day. Now I'm kind of compulsive. I used to say to him, if I do that much, he'd grab my hand and he'd go, that's all. That's enough. He said, progress, not perfection. Take it slow. And what I've learned, it took me a long time to learn this, when I do things slowly, they stay with me. The healing is much more powerful. When I try to do things quickly, it doesn't work. My father said this a long time ago. My father was a farmer. He used to say, you pray for the slow, steady rain. It nurtures the crops. The cloudburst floods them and destroys them. We see that a lot of times in life. You get one of these storms and we get a ton of rain in about half an hour. And then later on, everything's dry again because it's too much. So recovery is the exact same way. We have to learn as we do shame reduction. We got to do it slowly, because what happens if we don't try to do it too fast? Then all of a sudden you get overwhelmed and you want to stop doing it. You want to run away again, go back to the old. So I'm going to tell you a secret. It's much easier to go back to the old, because at least you're used to that. Addicts know what I'm talking about. When you first get into recovery, it's weird, isn't it? It's like I'm starting all over again. Well, it's the same thing for us when we get in touch with feelings. It's like I'm learning a whole new way of life, a whole new direction. So tonight what I want to do is I'm going to give you 3 different ways of doing this process. Because one of the things we're working on is, it's an old thing, I take it from the Karate Kid. And it goes like this. Negative out, positive in. Negative out, positive in. It's that mantra we develop that will help us to begin the process of releasing the negative and discovering the positive. And that's the most important piece. Because if we just stick with the negative, we'll get stuck in it. You got to be able to process it. So there are 3 different beautiful ways of processing this. And I find this so powerful and so beautiful. I have so much gratitude to the founders of AA, the founders of our 12-step programs, because they basically put together a very powerful and beautiful process called the 12 steps. And you'll notice something. Steps 4 through steps 9, they're called the working steps. And they're set up primarily for us to do this shame reduction work. It's totally amazing. So on the 4th step, we begin to identify, we begin to process stuff out of us. And I learned this from the old timers in AA. The greatest therapeutic tool on the face of the earth is the art of writing. They have said that the greatest therapy tool on the face of the earth is when you take a pen, you take a pad, and you write your feelings. And they taught me over and over again, say a prayer, ask the higher power to guide you, to open your heart and open your mind, and then whatever comes out, that's what you're ready to work on. Don't force things. The biggest mistake we can do is try to force memories. Whatever we remember, we remember. Now, I look back at my own life. I did my first 4th step way back in I guess it was 86, 87. And when I did it, I thought I was really doing a good job, even though it was scary. I did it again about 4 or 5 years later, and I did a better job 4 or 5 years later. And then I did it another time, and basically I did a better job then. And now I'm working with my sponsor, and I'm working on my 4th step again. And what I'm finding is each time I do it, I learn a little bit more about myself. It's like that onion. You discover something else you work on, you take care of. It's just that process we go through in life, which is so important. That's why I say, I don't want to be done. People ask me, when are you going to be done? When are you going to get to the plateau? I said, about 10 years after I'm dead. I got to work then too. What's the difference? I don't want to be done. This is an adventure. And so the steps are a powerful adventure because they're teaching us in the steps to write, to process, then to share with God, ourselves, and another human being. Because I'm going to tell you right now, once you share stuff and get it out of you, that's why I love being around people that are open to listen and not give advice. But somebody wants to just share with you, just be quiet and listen. And that's the most powerful the most powerful therapeutic, I can't get the word out, therapeutic tool there is. And the beautiful part about it is, then you learn it in the 6th and 7th step to acknowledge your defects of character. For every defect, there's an asset. Everything in life, there's a process. The same thing in making amends and making settlement, making peace, settling things, putting them to rest and moving on, closing doors so new doors can open. I love that concept of the steps because it really is a beautiful way of life. And the founders were so specific when they said this. They created 11 steps for us just to work on ourselves. And having done our work, to carry a message to somebody else. Go work on yourself first, and then share. Don't be afraid. I can share stuff today publicly, not publicly, but in my meetings, on lectures, with people around me I trust in recovery. I can share so many things today that for years and years and years, I kept buried. I don't want to share them. I don't mind today. Now, I won't share in public out there. I made that mistake once. I won't do it again. And I remember one time I was speaking at the old Glassboro College before it became Rowan. And I was speaking to students. And while I was speaking, typical me, I started sharing my story and stuff to that effect. The next day, I opened up the local newspaper, and guess what was on the front page? My story. I didn't know there was a reporter in the crowd. So I learned a lesson from that. You share with people in recovery. You don't share outside of stuff. You have boundaries. You set things where they're supposed to be. Because one of the things I've learned You don't want to beat yourself up. And that's why we do this with people that we trust, people we feel close to, people that will listen to us. So the steps are just another way of doing shame reduction, of reducing the shame. Another beautiful way of doing it is the process of grieving. Now, believe it or not, this may sound strange, but all that stuff you held inside of you, as you begin to let go of it, you're actually grieving its loss. Because it means change is taking place inside of you. Whenever a change takes place in anything, we go through a grieving process. We go through feelings. We go through the concept of trying to figure it out. And then we come finally to the beautiful gift of acceptance. We have to work through it and work in a different direction with it. And all this takes time. It's an investment. It's working on ourselves. It's growing. It's learning. It's experiencing. So that beautiful concept of grieving, I love the grieving process because I realize everything I've experienced in my life, I have to learn how to say goodbye and how to say hello. I have to learn how to do closure, open up new doors. And the grieving process helps you with that. It's a beautiful process. And yet will help you to begin to open up doors, to begin to say goodbye. There's a sadness in it. You know, I look back at my life, in that crazy life I lived. Part of me misses it. Part of me gets sad. And yet that's okay. That's a part of me that has come to an end, that has died. It's part of my history. Just like with your life, your past is your history. Congratulations. Did you make mistakes? I hope you did. Mistakes are wonderful. Do we screw up every once in a while? Congratulations. Isn't it great to be human? To have feelings? And to realize the fact that, yes, I made mistakes. Do I have the courage to face them, embrace them, learn from them, and grow from them? Again, my dad said to me all the time, he used to say, don't be afraid to fall down. You will learn how to get up. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. You will learn from it. So mistakes are part of life. Not getting it right is part of life. So our humanness and our human nature is very beautiful and very powerful. It teaches us that we have to learn this process so many times of letting go, of learning, of growing. And that's the third thing we use to do shame reduction. And that's a process called, the 12 steps of self-parenting, the self-parenting process. And I love the self-parenting process because I'm learning a principle. Two of the biggest enemies that we have in life are control and fear. Every time we try to control something, it takes a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety. Look first, you take your hand, just squeeze that muscle. The more you squeeze it, the tighter your arm becomes. In time, you hold it long enough, you'll feel it in your shoulder. But then, when you let go, there's like a relief that comes over your whole arm and body. It's amazing, isn't it? But that's us. So many times, did you ever try to control life? Control situations in life? Try to control people? Try to make them be what you want them to be? I learned that the hard way. In recovery, I've learned to carry the message, not the person. And it's not easy because I still have that disease inside of me. I'll probably have till I die. It's called try to fix some disease. It's a scary disease. And so many times in the course of my journey, I've tried that. And I want to fall back into it. But I got to be able to set boundaries and try not to fall back into it. Because I don't have the power to fix anybody. I can carry a message, but I can't carry the person. And here's the beautiful thing about carrying a message. You learn that. You carry a message based on love. You plant a seed. Will not get nurtured till later on. I know a gentleman, I love this guy, I've known him for years. I met him, oh God, when was it? Had to be 2010, 2011. I worked with him for a while, and he just said to me, "Well, Vince, this is all good stuff. Thank you. I gave him some books to read, things to do." He said, "Maybe someday." I said, "Okay." I never heard from him again. Well, ironically, 3 months ago, I get a phone call. He says, "Vince, you remember me?" I said, "Well, not really, but tell me about you." He said, "Oh, you told me this." He said, "That stuff you said to me back then really does make sense. Maybe it's time I begin to work on it." Who knows? When we're ready, we work, and we have to be ready. And so all you do is plant a seed, put something here. A friend of mine taught me this in AA a long time ago. He said, "You carry the message, not the drunk. You plant the seed, then you let go." And that's why I've learned through self-parenting this process. And so they talk a lot in self-parenting about facing your fears, facing this control issue through the power of love. They put 5 words together in self-parenting, and they're beautiful. Interconnect those words. The first word is do everything through the energy and power of love, because love is the power of healing. And so as I get in touch with my issues, I'm working on myself because I love who I am. I want to love who I am. I want to learn how to love me. That's why I'm doing this. And so I'm using the energy of love as a tool. With the energy of love then brings me the gift of hope. I begin to realize that as I can love more, learn more, and I can truly love even people that are my enemies, people that are unhealthy for me. I can still love them. I don't have to like them, but I can love them. That's something people don't understand a lot of times. That you can truly love someone but not like them. I can pray for them. I can wish them well. I can pray every day for their journey and let God be in charge and not me. If I truly do things out of love for myself and love for others, and that's part of what healing really is all about. And if I do that, then I'll develop a sense of hope. And from hope comes acceptance. To me, the most powerful spiritual word on the face of this earth is the word acceptance. When you come to acceptance, you come to peace. And each one of us, first of all, we got to learn to accept ourselves. We're not accidents. We're not mistakes. Each one of us is exactly who we're supposed to be. We're exactly where we're supposed to be on our journey. And all the things we've experienced, we've gone through, even the most traumatic, maybe they were supposed to happen so we can grow and learn from it and become stronger as a result of it. But in order to do that, we have to be able to face things and do it slowly. And when you do slow, it heals. That's the healing process we go through. So it's a slow process, but a beautiful process. And acceptance then brings us the gift of faith, through the gift of believing. And to believe in ourselves, to believe in something greater than ourselves, to believe that we need help, we need guidance, we need direction, the great gift of belief and faith. And with that comes trust. Slowly but surely, we're working this process. We're opening up the doors. We're learning to let go. We're learning to move on. So it's almost like each one of us is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flower that's in process of growing, blossoming, and growing as a person. And it's so beautiful to watch the analogy, because I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've been through. We all got a history. Congratulations. We all have done some things we probably don't want to tell the world about. Or I can tell my sponsor, or I can tell a therapist, or I can tell other people about. But sometimes I feel so ashamed. And yet I know now that it was all part of my growth process, all part of my learning process. I did some crazy stuff when I was in the priesthood, stuff I'm not really that proud of. But I've learned over the years, because I know I went through my adolescence. Since I went to seminary when I was 14, I didn't get a chance to go through my adolescence until I was in my 30s. I was what you call a late bloomer. What can I tell you? And the bottom line was I went through a lot of confusion, a lot of craziness to the process I had to go through in life. We all go through these things at the rate we're ready to go through them whenever we're ready to go through them. We got to go through them though. I never realized how much I really had no sense of who I was as a person. That's what shame does to you. It robs you of your identity, takes away your personhood, because literally you become the shame. And that's why they talked about we have to heal the shame that binds us, that holds us. Let go of that hold, move forward with it, learn more. That's the key to everything we do in life. And that's why that concept of love, that concept of hope, that concept of acceptance, that concept of faith, trust, opens doors for us. And so what I'm saying tonight is real simple. Peel the onion, peel it slowly. And eventually, as you peel it, you're going to start getting in touch with this wonderful thing called feelings. A friend of mine said to me, Vince, that's not wonderful. That's a curse word. I said, no, it's not. And yet in the beginning, it does scare you. I know the first time I got in touch with feelings scared the crap out of me. I told you that story. You know, I was going through my therapy. My therapist one day said to me, he said, Vince, when you come to the therapy session next week, bring a stuffed animal with you. I thought he was going off his rocker a little bit. I said, okay. So I put I got a stuffed animal. I had a stuffed animal. So I put it in a bag and brought it to him. Then he said to me, no, I don't want it. It's for you. What do you mean for me? Took me in the back of his therapy place and he had a recliner chair. He had me get in the recliner. He put it back, had me lay on it. I took the stuffed animal. He made me hug it. He put soft music on and dim lights. And he said, now your session today for 50 minutes, you're just going to lay there on that chair, hold that stuffed animal, and just listen to the music. And like a nut, I said to him, you know, I'm paying you for the session. He said, I know. Quiet, do it. Well, I really didn't. I thought he was a little, I couldn't figure it out at all. But about 10 to 15 minutes into that session, something started to happen to me. It was my first experience in feelings. I don't know why, but as I laid there, all of a sudden, these feelings start coming over me. And I start getting scared. And then all of a sudden, I found myself with tears coming down my eyes. And this was so new to me. It was really scary. And again, after the session was over, I said, what did you do to me? He said, we just started. He began the process. And sometimes there's something simple and beautiful like that starts those feelings come up inside you. And I'll be honest, it was scary. I was afraid of it. But in time, I got used to it. In time, it opened up doors. In time, it allowed me even now to have 3 apps on my phone with mindfulness and, you know, meditations and stuff to that effect. It's great. It's wonderful. You know, technology, what can I tell you? But now we have apps for everything. We even have the big book on app now. I can listen to it instead of having to read it. You know, we have the basic text. I can listen to it instead of reading it. There's all kinds of stuff out there now. And so it's wonderful because I'm beginning to realize feelings are beautiful. They're fantastic. They're part of our journey. They're part of our life, part of our makeup. Every one of us needs to experience what I call an emotional physic. We know what a physical physic is, but an emotional physic. It's like cleaning it out, getting it out. And when you're done, maybe 10 years after you're dead, don't worry about it. Just keep cleaning it out, little bit at a time. And as you clean it out, joy comes back in. I know the first time when I do my steps, a lot of times I see the joy coming back into my life. Whenever I let go of something, it's almost like this wonderful feeling, this joy. And that's why I try to share this with people and tell people about it, because shame is part of our journey. We've all either experienced shame from childhood, from growing up, or from people on the outside, and many of us have shamed others. I know I tell you the story all the time, and I love telling it, thank God. When I was a young priest, I was stationed with an alcoholic pastor, and, I picked up a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, but I also spent a lot of time being angry and shaming him because I truly wasn't connected to recovery yet. And I spent a lot of time shaming him as well as he was shaming me. And I always carried that inside of me. And I worked through it. And I told you the story in 2014. He called me. He had just gotten into AA. And we met at a diner. And we literally made amends to each other after all those years. And the bottom line was, unfortunately, he died a year later from cirrhosis of the liver. Because even when he was in recovery, it just had gone too far. He couldn't do anything about it. And so basically, he was just wanting to make amends before he died. But then because of him doing it to me, I was able to do it back to him. We were able to work peacefulness out of the whole thing. And today I remember him and I even prayed to him. And I say, thank you. See, it's funny sometimes how things work. I always say in God's time, not in our time. And so as we begin this process of slowly but surely reducing our shame, bringing it down to where I can deal with it, where I can look at it, where I can face it. But again, please do not try to do this by yourself. We need to be connected. We need help. You know the old saying, it takes a village to raise a family, to raise a child. Well, I know my eating disorder, I have a therapist, I have a nutritionist, I have a sponsor, I have a program. I need all those things in my life. It takes everything connected with people in recovery to help me every day in my growth process. Now, if you thought I'd be doing this way back when I was back in my 40s and stuff, I would have said, yeah, you're cuckoo. Today it's a whole different process. I'm still learning. There's more to learn. There's more to grow. So please, whatever, don't ever be done. A little bit at a time, we learn more about ourselves, we grow more, we experience more. And that's why I say with patience, with kindness, and with love, eventually, everything will find its way. It'll work its way out. So my prayer tonight, I'm going to pray that we basically take the time and the effort to invest in the most important investment on the face of this earth, to invest in yourself as a person. Because you are the most important investment. You are the most important person on the face of this earth. Because you're the only one there is of you. Congratulations. And please don't just say thank God. But no, you're the only one there is of you. So celebrate it and enjoy it. You might be in situations that might be a little hairy and crazy, but you'll get through them. You have the energy of love and that power of healing inside of you as a person. So next week, we'll bring this series to a conclusion by talking about the healing process, healing the shame that binds us. We'll work on the process of taking this to another level, a level of really positive healing. And so let us pray. God, I come before you tonight, the God of my understanding, divine presence. I ask that you be a guide and be a strength, that you walk alongside of me, be my protector, that you help me on this journey, the journey of discovery, the journey of love, the journey of learning, the journey of experiencing the beautiful things of who I am as a person, the beautiful journey of rediscovering the energy and power I have within me as a person, to realize that you created me, you gave me the energy of love. Teach me to love myself, to love others, to heal from the past, to be open to the future, and be able to live in today, and to celebrate each moment we have on the face of this earth. Help me not to be afraid of my feelings, my hurts, my joys, my celebrations, all the different things in life that touch me one way or another. But walk with me, be my guide, be my strength. And I thank you every day for sending teachers into my life. Even though I may not like some of them, I know that they're necessary for my growth and for my learning. So I pray for this grace. I pray for this strength. I pray that you may be with me and guide me as I walk the journey of life with you. And I ask this today, and I ask it every day in your name. Amen.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.